Welcome back. We are now going to talk about, as part of segment two, our biggest purchase regrets, sometimes known as buyer's remorse. So, I've previously talked about how I really regretted spending $400 on university textbooks that I did not open and I later sold for much less. There's a few other stories that I have that I hope by sharing this with you, by sharing my pain and suffering, you can learn from it and not make the same mistakes. And Vic, I hope you have also brought some stories of your own. The first one, this is the most recent one. So I moved into a new place about 2.5 years ago, and one of the things that my partner and I wanted to get was some sort of a food mixer. Instead of going to Kmart and buying something for 40, $50, we did a lot of research online and we thought, oh, it would be really nice if we could get something that can cook this and that and the other thing. And we finally settled on something that was almost $1,000. And look, I'm not going to mention the brand. If you want to sponsor us, fine. But I'm not going to mention the brand. But it's really good. I'm not going to lie. But we've used it for maybe 3 times in the last 2.5 years, which probably doesn't justify its cost. It's still there, and I'm still trying to think of reasons to use it, but I just don't have the time because we also have other things like air fryers and rice cookers and smoothie makers, and we found that overall those sort of simple and cheaper devices tended to be used much more often than this one. So, kind of a big regret. Didn't quite break the bank, but you're getting pretty close there.
So let me get this right. You bought an advanced appliances that's supposed to save you time in cooking, and your justification of not using it is because you don't have time to use it.
So this is the first time Vic's heard about this story.
Yeah.
So,
Wow.
look, there is that moving into a new place high, I'm going to call it.
Sure.
And so there is this sense of like, oh, we can get this and we can get that. Sometimes it's good to have a little less optimism, especially when it comes to spare time and, in this
So I can
case,
see how
money.
you wrote the podcast, like the last segment. It's all from buyer's remorse and participation.
Absolutely. I'm just helping you, right? It's not about me, it's about you.
Okay. I'm gonna.
Anyway, what are your stories, Vic? Let's hear one from you.
Well, okay. Without sounding egotistic, I don't regret buying anything.
Wow.
I regret buying
Wow.
something at the wrong time. So normally you just have to make a choice of, do you need something right now, and how convenient or how lazy you are at getting it. And most of the time when I do the research and I buy something I want it like yesterday, my biggest regret would be I buy something and it comes on the special the following day or the following week. I go, oh crap, I paid 40% more. So if anything, if I can segue back to the earlier segment, is if you don't really need it right now, and you can wait a bit and you're aware of the kind of the seasonal sales that Australia has, which is another topic in itself, then hold out until those special sales at 3 or 4 or 5 times a year, and you can save yourself 40-50%.
Absolutely. I agree with everything Vic said. However, I will note that he said at the beginning of his response, I don't regret anything I buy, I just regret when I bought it, which just fits into the same category of I'm regretting buying. So, slightly different definition, but I just wanted to make that clear. No one is perfect. What I will say, if I can add on to what you're saying, what I have done actually is I thought I needed a thing. This is later on from that time. I've bought a thing and I thought I'm not sure if I need it, and so I've just kind of left it there. I've left it there for like a week, and after a week I was like, oh, I didn't really intend to use it anyway. Completely unopened. I've got the receipt there, and I've just returned it. Right. So look, it does waste a little time, but at least it addresses the urge of, oh, I think I need it at that time. So I've bought it, I've gotten the high from buying it, and then I've returned it after sort of thinking about real world applications. So it's
If I may present the opposite view, and we talked about this in the second one, which is about your prototyping, you're buying cheap
Yes.
to see whether you need it. Prototyping is really good as long as you don't keep prototyping.
Sure.
So if there's one regret, it would be like buying cheap furniture.
Yeah.
It broke because it's not meant to be moved around or modified or whatever, and then you go back and buy more cheap furniture
Sure.
and
Yeah.
expecting a
Yeah. I
different
see.
result. So
I
it's
see.
like, once you know you need something like that, maybe it's worthwhile to buy a better quality second-hand one if it's really stretching your budget, or save up enough to buy a proper thing that will last a while, because you do get what you pay for in Australia.
Mm.
Other than brand names, there is a difference in material, especially with like furniture, white goods, and fashion and stuff. So I don't know, an auntie of mine used to call it, um, buy really cheap stuff multiple times is the quickest way to kind of basically go broke.
Yeah. Yeah.
So when you know you need something and you want to have it for a very long time, that's when you should actually invest in
Yeah.
buying something.
In a similar fashion, I've heard other people say it's really expensive to be poor, basically. So cool. Moving on to the second story out of three. This was the really, really old 2006 Hyundai Getz that I bought, I think, in 2022. This vehicle I bought for $6,000 because it's a pretty old car. We did use it for about 2.5 years, but we ended up paying about, I want to say, $4,000 in terms of repairs, replacing things, and so on and so forth. And we only ended up selling it for, I think, 6.5. So we did lose about, as in my partner and I, we did lose about $3,500. The car was nice, but I think if you're buying something that you're going to use a lot, as Vic was saying earlier, there is a certain point where if you buy something that's too cheap, it literally costs you more to keep using it, rather than if you were to just get something that was, if I just bought something that was 10 grand and I sold it for 9 later on, it would have been cheaper.
I thought you got lucky with your car because you sold it really high.
Well, I sold it for slightly higher than I bought it.
Which is already a rarity because cars are supposed to be depreciations.
Yeah,
Right?
yeah.
So,
But that's because of the $4,000 I spent on the repairs.
sure, whatever. I think it's more, if you know, I mean, cars aside, because I love cars, so I don't care whether it depreciates. Again, if you want to have something that is reliable, that you want to keep for a while, it's worthwhile in Australia to spend something that has good quality or an extended warranty. To actually get the warranty is a huge thing in Australia. I don't know what it is in your home country, but again, there's a lot of really strong consumer rights here, and rarely do people get away with not kind of honoring warranty periods. Some companies even sell you extended warranty. Just note to check it out whether there's mandatory warranty periods or extended periods.
It's also worth noting that if you're buying something secondhand, it is cheaper, but you probably don't have that warranty period.
Yeah, that's the whole kettle of fish. I mean, even anything, if I go back to the regret topic, being scammed or being tricked by people who are trying to sell you secondhand goods is probably the most regretful thing you can do. Like false advertising, people give me plan A and give you a lemon instead.
Yeah.
That's quite common here in Australia, unfortunately.
Yeah. But I mean, in a way, that's not your fault if you went into a potential sale expecting a certain thing that they had sold you. Just be careful. Last story on my side, and this I'm going to put under the broad umbrella of hobbies, just to get you mentally prepared, because it sounds not great, but also I need you to understand where I was coming from, which was I wanted to try this. I wanted to do some prototyping, as I called it earlier, and I'm happy to spend some money on it because the experience is what I was after. Yes, I keep telling myself that every day. So I'm going to give you 3 examples very quickly. The first one is back in 2014, I spent $2,000 on a bunch of computers to mine for cryptocurrency. I sold the machines a few months later because I realized it didn't financially make sense. And I got a bunch of a particular cryptocurrency which had no value, and then 10 years later, the value shot up, but I lost the password to my wallet, which you've heard this story before.
So technically, that it was a good purchase, but it was a user error that you lost the value.
It's like buying a shovel, a very expensive shovel, digging up something that could be gold,
and then you forgot where you put it.
like digging up rare earth minerals that are not that valuable, and then thinking, all right, I'll just leave it somewhere.
Sure.
and now I can't use it, but the value's shot up. Yes. So that's one. Second one's a slightly. So the lesson there is if you want to try something new, be prepared to swallow that cost, because that amount of money can be very high, and maybe limit it a bit. Maybe explore it a bit more instead of having to pay $1,000 for your own adventures. Second thing is on the Warhammer figurines. So I started thinking, oh, I'm going to spend some money playing this. Turns out I didn't actually like the game very much, but I actually kind of enjoyed the buying and selling of it. So I basically turned a hobby into a job, which I didn't particularly like, but I guess I made a small amount of money off it, and it gave me something to do, which is probably not a good justification for it, but I suppose it's a hobby. I did spend, I think, 10,000 on it, and I made 12 and a half. I stopped doing it because the time cost didn't make sense. But if you're looking for something to occupy your time, you can probably find much cheaper hobbies. If you're looking to set up a business, maybe stop yourself at a certain point to see what the return looks like. I did it for about 6 months. I probably could have stopped myself after 3. So there's a bit of regret there.
I'm gonna share something that is similar, but I don't have that level of regret. But I used to be a professional photographer, and one of the most common thing I hear from new starters is, I am going to become better at my craft by buying the best gear. So you end up spending tens of thousands of dollars upgrading your lenses and your bodies and your lighting and everything. Before you know it, you're probably heading at that 5-digit figure of 10, 12, 20 grand. Only after 3 years of working in photography did I actually manage to make the money I've invested into the gear back. Now, fortunately, videography and photography gears are actually quite common to be resold. So I did make that initial investment back.
Oh, that's good.
Maybe 70-80% of it. But short
That's
of
alright.
that, it would have been a huge justification of how much you actually spend on a hobby, and then go from there. So my advice is, don't need to justify it. If you like it and you want to spend money on it, just enjoy the experience. And then after that, if you can make some money back because you're selling the gear, then so be it. At least you're paying that 30% for the experience.
Sure. To each their own. Final example, and this one I cannot redeem. This is 100% regret. Well, 95% regret. I was looking at hydroponic farming a number of years ago. So this is, if you're not sure, so hydro is water. So rather than growing things in soil, it's growing things in water, which has its benefits, but also has its challenges. Turns out, long story short, it's just a lot cheaper to have a piece of land and grow things in soil. Okay, I get it. You don't need high tech. You just need the sun and some water and some fertilizer, and you're done with it. But at the time, I thought, hey, look, it would be really nice if I can set up an indoor sort of farming facility. This was also during COVID, so I'm going to blame this on COVID. And hey, I can grow my own produce. So I spent about another $2,000 or so. You can see a bit of a trend here. And long story short, I don't even think I sold any of the stuff. Maybe like some of the stuff, but that money's gone basically. Long story short, I think I liked the idea of farming a lot more than the actual act of farming. And what I mean by this is I started, so the first part of growing anything is you've got the seeds and you've got to germinate it. So you got to add a little moisture and then give it sunlight, essentially, give it UV light. I don't have the patience. I don't have the patience to wait. It was like a week for the seed to turn into a sprout. And I was like, this is too much work. And so I've just kind of abandoned it, and it's not great, but
So
yeah,
the
don't do
moral of
that.
the story here is, if you had taken any, and I mean any, of the advice that we provide you in the first segment, whether it's sharing, renting, prototyping, buying secondhand stuff, you would be able to easily prevent what Vincent has done for the last 3 items.
Sure. I think if I can give you a moral of this story, it's that sometimes you like the idea of something more than the actual thing itself. So if if you can maybe visit, or in my case, if I had visited a hydroponic farm, or if I had watched more YouTube videos of people talking about, oh, these are the systems you have to do, this is what you have to do on a day-to-day basis, maybe that could have deterred me from buying all the stuff. But I didn't watch the videos until like after I bought it. So yeah,
I'm a bit
regrets.
more of a realist. Again, same moral of the story from the photography thing. I'd rather just think of it as I'm paying for the experience of learning what I like and what I don't like, and whatever sunk cost it is, it's a sunk cost.
Yes, but also I think another point on Vic's story is that he's buying things that have a much higher resale value. Unfortunately, the things I bought in the hydroponic farming space doesn't have a lot of resale value, so I've grown some.
Did you actually grow anything?
I did grow some.
Patience?
No,
No.
I didn't even grow patience.
Okay.
Did I grow some lettuce? No, I don't even think I did. Maybe my parents did. I don't remember.
It's almost like someone schemed you into buying all these equipment and then you didn't even put it together. And
Look,
you gave up.
look, this is why I don't have a pet, right? Because it's like I love the idea of this thing, but then I dread the actual having to deal with it because there's so much to deal with, and it's already hard enough just looking after myself.
Don't have a pet. Okay, right.
Yeah. So those are our stories and our regrets, mostly mine. I'm sure Vic has. Look, I know he's got stories. I've known him for a while, but his maybe later on he'll tell
I'm
you
sticking to my guns.
the
I don't regret buying anything, but paying extra for it is my regret.
we'll get him drinking and then we'll share more stories. Anyway, that's the end of this episode. Thank you very much for watching, and I hope to see you next time.